Hi there, and welcome back to my multi-part series about the HTML canvas element and linking it to 2D arrays. This is part 3 of that video series. It's kind of semi-unscripted and I sort of fly by the seat of my pants. My name is Mr. Brash, I'm a high school teacher, and here we go. So I do have some recommended reading. This is the same list you would have seen in my previous videos. I'll put the links down in the description of this video. Of course, there are other amazing spots to read up on this sort of stuff on the web as well, and do a quick search. When I last left you in video 1 and 2, we already talked about getting the canvas context. Now these links, these items here, this is actually a clickable link. So if you were watching this slideshow on your own, which I'll have a link to, you can actually click on these and get to the different resources. We will have filled a rectangle, stroked a rectangle, created a path with an arc, and you can see here the parameters to these functions. The center of the X, the center Y, the radius. The start and end for the arc are in radians, so just keep that sort of stuff in mind. We also did a few other things like changing the fill style, the stroke style, which takes colors, usually a hexadecimal number. It can also be RGB and this sort of thing. And then there's also the move to and creating a line, and there's all sorts of other drawing functions. So I do suggest you check out the description of the canvas object from W3 Schools or any of these other sort of reference locations. But today I want to talk about drawing an actual image, taking a PNG file or a JPEG file and drawing on your canvas with it. And you can actually take drawing information from one canvas and draw it on another canvas and this sort of thing, and even do clipping, increasing size, decreasing size. And this is what's really going to be helpful when we do, say, an animation or some sort of game. So there's a couple ways that you can do this, and the first way that I really like is to set up an image in your HTML document. And the reason why I like to do this is because it loads when the HTML page loads. And so there's no delay. Typically your HTML code here would say, IMG, and you'd give it your source file. We'll give it an ID so that we can talk to about it in JavaScript. And then to make it not actually show up in the HTML document, you just give it the hidden flag, which just literally means it's hidden. Again, what this does is when the page loads, or when all of your elements on your HTML document load for the the document object model, it will preload this file. And so all of that gets done before your JavaScript even runs. And then in the JavaScript document file, we would get a handle for that item. So I'd get an element by ID, which in this example here is my name. That gives us a variable that represents that image file. And then we ask our context to draw it. So the command for that, or the method or the function or whatever, is draw image. You give it the source file, and you give it a destination X and a destination Y for the canvas. So this is a destination of where on the canvas do you want this to be. So top left corner being 0, 0. But there are two other ways to draw an image. Sometimes you don't want to draw the image at its full size. I'll be giving a live demo of this in just a second. So another way of doing it is to actually give it a destination width and height. So you can give it its X and Y, but maybe you don't want it to be the same size as the normal image. So you can actually stretch it and reduce its file size or all this sort of stuff. And last but not least, what if you only want a clipping of it? So you can select a source X and a source Y of where to pick from the file. And this is all these X's and Y's and destinations, it's all in pixels. There's a source width and a source height as well, and a destination X, destination Y, destination width, destination H. So I'm going to go through a demo of this, how we can draw. But there's another way that you can set up your document if you don't want to put the image file in your HTML. So I just want to really quickly, there's another option here. There's actually a couple different ways we could do this. There's more than just these two options, but you don't have to have it in your HTML. You can just go straight to your JavaScript document and create an image. So we can get a handle for a file and say document.create element, and we're going to create an image element, and then we give the image element its source. So this is how it knows where the file is, and if it's in a folder and all that. So you give it its fully qualified name, but anyway, or relative name, I suppose. But here's the problem. So when we create this variable and we say we want an image and we give it a source, it doesn't necessarily load it instantly. There can be a real delay here. And if we go ahead and we try to see it on our canvas or anything like that, just by giving it a source and stuff like this, it doesn't necessarily make it right away. And it won't know when to draw it. So we could, if we right after creating this image file and directly after setting its source, if we said context.drawImage, it probably won't show up because it's still in the middle of loading the image via the internet from its source on some server somewhere. Because this code runs on your web browser, the file could exist in a completely different country and be large and take a while to load. So if the next line is draw the image, that happened too fast, the image isn't finished loading. which is why I kind of like the first way of doing it, where the image loads with the HTML document. So what do we need to do to make sure the image actually does draw? Well, there's an onLoad. And so what happens here is we say when the image has finished loading, so onLoad, call a function. And we can either put an inline function like I've got here, or you can actually create a function elsewhere and have it call that function. And so what we'll do is we'll draw the image. There's a couple different ways you could do this. I just put this in here to say we're drawing this image. But you could put, image file in there and that sort of thing. And here's a destination X and Y of 0 and 0. So this will fire, or this will run, when the image is finished loading. Okay, so let's take a look at this live. So when I last left you in version 2 or video 2, we had our little fake Pac-Man, we had a purple circle, and we had this rectangle here. I'm actually going to take away everything except for Pac-Man, because I actually kind of like Pac-Man. So here's my canvas. I've got my fake Pac-Man. If we wanted to, we could give him an eye or something like that, but let's just go ahead and start doing the image stuff. So I have an image in my images folder, and it's just a bunch of Star Wars characters here. By the way, if you're the owner of this image, I have no recollection of where I got this thing. So if you're watching this and you're the owner of this image, please contact me so I can give you full credit on the video. Or if you're mad at me for having it here, I'll take the video down, I guess. Okay, so this is I believe a 900 by 1200 pixel image, which means that each one of these squares is a 300 by 300 square. So what we're going to do is we're going to try drawing this on our canvas. So again, it's in my images folder. In my index.html, I'm going to put an image tag right here, and I'm just going to fill in the information for it. So this image tag has source my file. I'm going to change that to images/Star Wars characters.png, which is the file name in question. My ID, well, let's give it a SWC for its ID, so Star Wars characters, SWC, and I'm going to say please be hidden. And so when I run this, absolutely nothing gets loaded. There's no image loaded on my page. Now let's take a look at my JavaScript. So we've got our context here. I'm going to ask the context to draw that image, but I need a handle for that image. So let's call our image SWC, and I'm going to ask the document to load my file, which I also gave the ID SWC. Great, so it's loaded it, but it's not drawing it. It's just in memory. Now I'm going to ask the context to draw it. So context, draw image, and I'm going to just draw the whole thing SWC at 0, 0, and let's see what happens. Okay, I get Yoda and a little bit of the other ones, and then Pac-Man gets drawn after the image does, so Pac-Man's going to sit on top of that image file. And you can see exactly what I mean if we go over here and we take a look at the original image. So a little bit of Chewie and a little bit of Darth Vader's, and then a little bit for the Stormtrooper here. Okay, so we know the dimensions of the image and we know the dimensions of each one of these squares. Let's set some constants for ourselves. I know that my canvas width is 400, so let's do that. I know the height is also 400. Let's get our image width, which is 900. Our image height, which is 1200. And I'm going to call this next one box. And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but the idea here is that one box there is going to be a 300 by 300 box. And we'll just hope that the dimensions work really nicely. Okay. And I could have, of course, called this a canvas width and a canvas height or anything like that. But this is just a demo, so it's not that big of a deal. All right, so we're going to just draw this in our canvas there. I'm going to move my image a little bit to the right. So let's do maybe 25 for the destination X and Y. And I'm also going to reduce the size. Let's reduce this by quite a bit. So I know the image width. Let's divide that by, let's say 5, and we'll do the same thing with the image height. All right, and we can see here that my image was drawn at 25, 25, and we have our image at a reduced size. So what if I want to get just one of these boxes? Like, let's try and get Leia. So Leia is in the second row, and she's the third box. So this would be an X of 300, 600 if we're talking about the original image. X of 600 and a Y of 300. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the version of the draw image that asks for a source X, a source Y, width, height, and all of that stuff. So my source X is the box times 2, and my source Y is the box times 1. So I'm going to say box times 2 and just box. Now my source width and my source height are both 300, which I've set as box. Now I have to give it my destination X, I'll just put 0, destination Y of 0, destination width is also going to be box, and destination height is also going to be box. And box, again, maybe not the best constant name for this. And there we go. We get our 300 by 300 that is just Leia. If we wanted to center this on our canvas, we certainly could do that. If we wanted to move it around underneath my Pac-Man or something like that. And then I can start getting a little bit creative. I can start drawing one other person on top of Leia in a different position or something like this. So let's just go 2 rows down. So I'll say box times 3 or something like that. Let's put our X at 50, our Y at 50 for our destination. Let's just see what we get. I love playing around like this. So we've got a layer of Obi-Wan Kenobi on top of a layer of what was Leia's box. And then we get Pac-Man sitting on top. So maybe I'll just give a little bit of a different X and Y for Obi-Wan, and now we're starting to see what we get here. And we can play around with this draw image all we want. I could have so much fun with this all day and just keep drawing from my Star Wars characters image here. We could, reduce their different sizes like I showed you before. We could even stretch them. So let's take Leia and let's make Leia the whole size of the canvas. So I'm just going to get rid of Obi-Wan. Okay, so we want our destination to be the width and height of our canvas, which of course I could have just made one. Oops, I got a typo there. I could have just made that one constant, one variable, similar to what I did with box. So there we go. My 300 by 300 image of Leia got stretched to 400 by 400. It actually does a really good job of stretching images as well. I do find that it does a really great job of filling in the pixels as it needs to. Obviously, it'll get a little pixelated. But if we really wanted to have some fun with this, we could animate Pac-Man moving around on top of this image of Leia and all of that fun stuff. Okay, so that's it for the draw image and drawing actual images onto the canvas. But there's also opportunities for grabbing images or creating images. So you can actually create image data and create the different pixel colors. You can grab image data from another canvas. There's all sorts of opportunities here. So I do highly recommend that you take a look at the resources that I've put in my slideshow here. And let's see, I've got my get context link right here. If you click on that link, it takes you to the MDN web docs definition for the canvas get context. Okay, and it shows you the different things that you can do with get context. And if you click on the word canvas, that'll take you to the W3 Schools definition for Canvas, the Canvas reference, which has links to all of the different drawing tools, rectangles, paths, transformations. There's so many awesome we could even rotate Leia if we wanted to. We could clip out the background so we just get Leia's head in a smaller background image. All sorts of different options here. There's shadows, drop shadows. There's alpha for see-through stuff. You can save the contents of your canvas. You can restore it. There's all sorts of options here that I think you should play with on your own. All right, so that was the HTML canvas object and 2D arrays part 3. My name is Mr. Brash. Keep your eyes on this playlist for future videos, including using two-dimensional arrays to help with our model view controller and controlling what goes on our canvas. Have a great day.